So they have their two
this available to you again in the future. So thanks to all of you for making time and committing to this and saying yes to your professional development. Thank you, every single one of you, for just making that investment. I'm Erica Cayley of Guest Service Solutions. We're going to get to know each other pretty well here over the next month. This is a time-phased webinar series. So between now and somewhere in the end of September, you're going to get a ton of stuff. You're going to get to know me, and you're also going to get to know Miss Yolanda Martinez. So say hi, Yolanda.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So I am president of Guest Service Solutions, and we have been around the hospitality industry for quite some time, specifically in the ski resort industry now for a good 18 years. I've worked with ski resorts all over the United States, so I'll be able to provide, I would say, a fair amount of skills, a fair amount of experience to you. And if you have a question, chances are I'll be able to answer it, or I'll be able to find somebody that can answer it for you. Yolanda has also a very long history in the hospitality hospitality industry, as well as in the sales and customer service arena. She previously was in Pinehurst, but then before that, she was also at the Biltmore in North Carolina, correct?
Yes.
So she is the solutions coach that you'll be spending a fair amount of time with. She's also going to be facilitating some of the coaching with us today as well. So between the two of us, you're going to get, I would say, a pretty good, I think a pretty good, well-rounded bit of how do I say this? Not just training in sales, but also training in guest service, and also training in how you're going to be a little more emotionally flexible in what you're doing right now. And I think that's especially important when you're thinking about how we work in the luxury arena, which is, I think, very much what Moving Mountains is all about. So we'll get there in just a moment. As you know, this is a 4-part webinar series. So today we'll be focusing on mastering relationship selling, and I think that's going to be important when we're really focusing more on you than anything today. Next week on September 6th, our content will be focused on listening. So we'll start that conversation a little bit today, but that's going to evolve a little bit, and you'll have some pre-work that will prepare you for our webinar then next week. Webinar 3 will be beyond rates, dates, and availability, customizing the experience. So how we are taking the way that we listen, the way we qualify that guest for that experience, and then how we take that into creating value for that guest. And then our 4th webinar, which I think we might have a little bit of a conflict with, and I think we need to adjust that. So Yolanda, perhaps if you would please make a note, and Amy, maybe make a note as well. It should be on September 27th, because I will be in Utah on the 20th. It'll be on September 27th from 10 to 12 Mountain Standard Time. So we'll make that adjustment, and if that does not work, we'll find the next available date and schedule that accordingly as well. So this 4-part series covers quite a bit as it relates to relationship selling, and there is a distinct difference, and I think it's important to note, especially again as we're talking about luxury sales. As well as what it really means to you as a hospitality professional. I think we are in the business of empathic work. Overall, we do some really special stuff here. It's not just about selling. And so I want to be able to give you a really strong foundation so that you see that what you're up to today is a lot bigger than what you're up to today. So our commitments to you for this entire series are really getting you thinking about how we sell the way that our guests want to be sold to. not sold to, but sold for and with. So thinking a little differently about that in and of itself. Increasing your product knowledge, not by becoming an encyclopedia of information and knowing about the square footage of every single room and every single residence, but increasing your product knowledge about the things that your guests are really going to want to know about and how we're going to be flexible with that information and sharing it in a way that guests are really looking for. So making sure that we're talking about the things that guests are really asking us for and not making assumptions about information or talking about the things that we're perhaps thinking that guests want us to be talking about. Increasing your conversion rates by 10%. We have this great tool available to us through Navis, and it's wonderful when we know what hot leads we need to follow up on, and it's wonderful when we know what perhaps is becoming a property turn down, or we know what is turning into perhaps a not booked and why. It almost, though, sometimes doesn't matter how much technology you have unless you know how to gain some levels of commitment in a conversation. So the art of conversation still has to be first and foremost in sales. So increasing your conversion rate just by being able to have a conversation or control a conversation in a different way and honor that dance between you and the guest is still going to be critical. So we want to be able to give you the verbal technology to be able to do that. Increase your booked folio averages by 15%, which means that if you're currently booking reservations that are a $10,000 reservations, wouldn't it be great if you could start booking $15,000 reservations and putting forth the same amount of effort? So we want to be able to give you the skills to be able to do that and give you some tips on how to upsell and cross-sell and give you some thoughts on how to make sure that the catered chalet experience is really getting the press and getting the play that it needs, strategically incorporating that into conversations quickly in conversations. Ensuring prospective guests become loyal guests. People are curious about moving mountains for more reasons than we probably think. And we get a ton of repeat business. We get a lot of referrals. The price tag can be a little scary to some people, but sometimes we create more sticker shock than probably needs to be there. So how can we make that prospect become someone who becomes loyal to us? It's not about price and it's not about discounting. We get a little discount happy sometimes, and I want to give you ways that you can avoid that and still create the loyalty, because it's not based on price, it's based on relationship. Decrease your selling cycle by 35%. Oftentimes, on average, what we see, especially with vacation rentals of this size, is that we tend to have phone conversations on average about 4 or 5 phone calls before an actual reservation converts. So if we're able to decrease that selling cycle by 1 or 2 calls, then we're able to be more efficient and more effective. So I want to be able to give you some tools to be able to do that. All right, does that sound like a good plan to all of you? Let's start there first. Is that a lot, or are you going, whoa, that's a lot more than what I bargained for with all of this? Are you scared? Are you excited? What do you think?
Excited.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, please. Good. I'll take it.
They can do it.
I
More
think
money,
so.
less time.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll be busy, I promise, and you'll be tired. This will be the fastest 2 hours that happen your entire day, but it'll be worth it. We promise. So I want to get to know all of you a little better, and I know Yolanda does as well. So if you wouldn't mind, let's do some introductions. So what we would like, if you would please, and we can ask you to volunteer. Who are you? Share your most valuable tip for selling a luxury vacation experience. And we asked you to come with 2 objectives. What are they? So who would like to begin?
I can begin. Hi guys, we've met, but I'm Kate. my most valuable tip for selling a luxury vacation experience is learning what the customer's expectations are prior to plugging them into a hole, like really learning what they expect to get out of this vacation, whether it's hardcore skiing or spending time playing Scrabble. Those, you know, their expectation would drive my selling. And my objectives for this series, I think shortening the sales cycle is a really great point, because I do think we have developed a cycle that is time consuming and isn't probably the most efficient. So the more we could kind of move that along would definitely be my top objective. The second one would just to be, I was excited about more of the personality side, and both developing a relationship with the team, because I think that's really important, that understanding how we all interact. I thought that would be something really valuable to take out of this.
A lot of you, how many of you have found that you all touch leads? So Craig and Kate and Amy, you all might touch the same lead, right? And you probably all bring your own flair to that lead, and you may or may not mean to bring your own flair to that lead, and some of you jive better with certain guests than others do, correct? Or not correct? Yes?
Correct.
Yeah, right.
So being able to learn how to use all of that to your advantage, I think it definitely will benefit all of you. So Kate, yes, both good objectives for sure. And I can see why you want both of those. Yes, good. Thank you. So you get to decide who gets to go next, Kate, because you volunteered to go first. How's that?
Let's go around the table. Craig next.
Cool. Hi, my name's Craig. You know, my most valuable tip for selling a luxury vacation is really listening and understanding what the person is wanting out of this vacation. You know, because a lot of times we get split groups because our homes are so large. We get people that are, you know, anywhere from 8 to 16 people in a group, and you know, a lot of people want to be out skiing right away in the morning, but then a lot of people don't want to go out until 10 or maybe not at all. So it's really listening and just understanding what they really want, and before you place them in a home or even give them close to a suggestion. And from there, you know, giving them suggestions and listing out, you know, the benefits of each residence before you even begin talking price, because you can really narrow it down to, you know, 2, maybe 3 options before, you know, you really give them the question of which one they want, so that we can try and limit that process.
Mm-hmm.
My objections for this is I'd love to know how to, you know, reduce the buying tension between someone, just because, you know, a lot of our homes are priced between, you know, 10 and 25,000 to get someone in there. You know, really figure out how to reduce that buying tension would be huge. And then as well, lately, in the past 2 weeks, you know, my selling cycle has definitely increased quite a bit. But now that we're getting towards the end of the month, you know, that selling cycle does become a little shorter, being able to use urgency and availability with Christmas and President's Day becoming books. So, love to know other ways to reduce the selling cycle outside of those tactics.
Sure. What are you finding on average right now, Craig, in terms of how many calls it's taking you until it converts?
Right about 3 to 5, I'd say. That amount of contact, and then it's done with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Other than that, they've told me that they've gone another route, or if they're ready to buy. So
Good. Okay, that's fair. Fair. So I get you, and it is a big price tag when you look at the fact that the cost of a vacation is more than some people's cars. It's tough, and sometimes we don't even realize that we are the ones that are bringing the tension to the conversation. So perhaps we'll take a look at that, especially today. We'll start with that a little bit, and then that'll be a thread that we carry through in all 4 webinars, is how we're going to continue to reduce that tension. So we'll get there every time. Thank you, Craig. So Craig, who gets to go next?
We're going in that circle. Sarah's next.
There you go. Lean in
Hi.
Sarah. Hi.
I'm Sarah. Good. How are you?
Good.
Super.
We gotta go hard on Sarah. She's only been with us for what, a week and a half?
I've got a lot to learn. So my most valuable tip, I haven't sold luxury vacation homes like this yet, but I've worked in the vacation industry pretty much all my life in a capacity of different realms. So my tip is we sell an experience, and to remember that is usually the most important thing. And then connection. The friendly face can go a long way. So it's nice to be the first person these guys are dealing with. My objective.
So wise,
Well,
Sarah.
My top objective now, being so new to this company, is to learn what we all do and how I can help them in the best capacity, especially as we start moving into more bookings and reservations. Yeah, getting an answer in the phone, that would be awesome.
I gave her a heart just for this. We're super excited to have Sarah as a sort of a support role for all of us, and we've all already started leaning on her a lot and realizing how valuable that support role is.
Wonderful.
For you. And how wonderful.
They make this job easy
Yeah,
to walk
She's
in.
on our pedestal, right?
So the second she walked in the door, you're like, oh my God, we needed you so badly. Was it sort of like that?
Yeah. Forget training, just jump in.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that was my first objective. Then the second one is really to ease the communication with these guys. When they first walk in, when they're the first person they call to book reservations and they don't really know what they're getting into, to be able to see the webinars and discuss what they're doing so that I can make that a real easy transition. And, just be the first contact of comfort for them, I guess, and ease their experience into loving arms and warm homes.
You're talking about guests. You're talking about guests. Okay. Got it. All right. I like it, Sarah. I feel a lot of love there. Feel a lot of love.
Yay.
Sarah,
Okay.
who would you like to go next?
He's over there.
We're
Oh,
switching.
hi.
Hi, I'm Teresa.
Hi, Teresa.
On top of the
a little bit.
Oh, okay. Oh, the camera's just in an odd spot. It's rested on a Kleenex box. So it's kind of precarious.
Talk into the tissues.
But anyway, let's see. I'm Teresa, and my most valuable tip is painting the picture. Painting the picture of what that vacation and what that experience is going to look like to the guest. And what I'd like to get out of this webinar series is understanding some of the trends and also understanding a little bit more about my communication style and how I can use both of those learnings to better communicate with guests that will result in higher sales. I focus on the guest services piece, not so much the reservations right now.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we use that to sell all the other services for guests?
So, Teresa, what services are you selling? Are you talking in terms of as a concierge sort of a role? Are you?
Yes, our concierge services, and our goals this year to focus on, well, obviously we sell lift tickets, arrange ski school, ground ground transportation, grocery delivery. What are other big
Things that
buckets?
make us commission.
Basically, those activities that bring us commission. Non-skiing activities. So we are basically a full-service concierge for our guests to plan. Once they book their lodging, that's where Jenny, who you'll meet next, Jenny and I step in to arrange everything else for their vacation.
Okay, and you have a process for how you reach out to guests at what point after the reservation has been secured? So you already have that system sort of down, right?
Yes. We have a transition from reservations over to guest services, and then we have a whole series of steps that we take to work with the guests before they arrive, when they arrive, and while they're here.
Good. Okay. And it's working well now?
Yes, last year was Jenny and I both, it was our first year, and so we tweaked a lot of things, and I think we got things in pretty good shape. But we're always looking for ways to be more efficient with our processes and communications with guests.
Okay, perfect. Good. Got it. That's great. Thank you, Teresa. So that means that we are, who are you? Is Jenny next? Is that what you're saying?
I'm Jenny.
Yeah. All right.
So you have beautiful teeth, by the way. Just saying.
Thank you very much. I just had a dentist appointment the other day, and you're sitting there and you can't talk because you look like a Muppet with your mouth open. And the hygienist goes, "Oh my God, you have such pretty teeth." And I went, "Thank you." So thank you very much. I'll let my mom know you said that. She'll be happy.
I'm going to talk to my mom about mine. So I'm Jenny, and my most valuable tip for selling luggage, I would say, there's so many aspects of it. So getting to know the guests, and also, what did I write? Becoming familiar with them. So I like to know what their name is right up front. I generally always use their first name as opposed to their proper greeting with their last name, because I do think that you're selling an experience, and so you should have that familiarity with the guest. That's just my opinion. And then my objectives for this seminar are, one, how I communicate with the rest of the group. That's a very big one for me, as everyone in this office will tell you. And the second one is, because Teresa and I do sell, and we are also in contact with the guests at times in starting the conversation with the bookings. So I would like to know how to smoothly go over any objectives that they have. Instead of just objecting to their objectives, I would like that to be a smooth transition, that they don't even realize that they're headed in another direction instead of no.
Can you give me an example, Jenny?
I would like them to always say yes to everything I want them to buy. So most of these guests, we all know what our price point is pretty high. So most of these guests, like you said, it's a car. It could be a car to some people, and this is their weekly vacation. And it's probably one of 3 or 4 for the year. So really, most of our guests, money is not an object. So I tend to get confused when I offer up a service that would make their life so much better, and they say no to it. So, like our LCC package, which I know that they can afford, our catered chalet, what did I call it?
Call the LCC, that's our terminology.
She keeps saying leave. I don't know.
She knows a lot.
What?
Or like any kind of our personal chef dinners, anything that we can get this guest that can well afford to do these experiences, how to get them to come on board and understand that this is really what they want, but we need to apparently sell it.
And I am not a big salesperson because I know they have the money, so just do it.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. I
Anyway.
think I know where you're going with this. I
That was
mean,
very convoluted. I'm very sorry about that.
no, don't be. Don't be. I understand that you're a direct person and that's how you communicate. And you are also in that sort of mindset that, hey, you know and I know that you can afford this, so what's the problem? And if you're
Correct.
not telling me what the problem is, I can't help you. And it's your job to figure out what the problem is. So there is something happening in between there, and that's your job. And that to
Correct.
me is kind of the gap that we're going to close in this series for you, is how can I not be afraid of going there in a conversation? And what does that conversation sound like so that I can gain different levels of commitment from a caller, a guest, so that I can give that guest something to say yes to. I can gain a different kind of a commitment from that guest that will push them in the direction of being able to say yes to a catered chalet experience. I know they need this. It's not that they want this, it's that they truly need this. They haven't thought about February during their 2-week ski vacation on day 9 when they have already gone to the grocery store 7 times and they're about sick of it. And they just want to relax, and they're going, this is no longer a vacation. This has become a trip and I am over it. They haven't even thought about that scenario yet, but you have, because you've already gone down that path with other guests. So how do you walk through that with a guest? I'm sorry, Yolanda, you were thinking of something?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's finding their communication style and the right way to ask those questions. Now, I know that you've stayed with us before and you were here for 2 weeks, or, I just had a guest with a similar length of a trip, and they called me and said, I've been in the grocery store 5 times because whatever. So basically finding out what they want and the experience that they want before we're just selling them things, right? So is that kind of, you're trying to figure out the way that we figure out what they want and figure out what they'll need and make them understand that you're providing things for them that will make their trip what they've now asked you for? Is that kind of what you mean?
Kind of, except for I know what they want.
Yeah.
I have determined that I know what they want.
Yes.
No, but yes, correct, Yolanda. So just getting good. And exactly what you said, Erica, to figure out how I use the way that, even though I know what they need and want, how I get that introduced into the conversation and get them listening, or have them participating in asking me for these things.
Mm-hmm. Right. Or in leading them to that conversation. All right.
Okay.
We can do that.
Amy. Okay. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
So from a valuable tip, I have not sold luxury vacations yet, maybe one since I've gotten here. But I would say from, a sales tip, I've come from a big sales background. It was always get to know your audience. Who are you talking to? What's their name? What are some of those things about them that are keywords, that are triggers that you can take through your selling, what you're trying to sell and what you're trying to accomplish. So it was always know your audience and don't sell from your pocket. Don't think about money in terms of what you can afford or what you personally have to spend on a vacation or what your experience was on a vacation. You never know what somebody else's pocketbook looks like. So those are the things that sales 101 for me.
Mm-hmm.
What do I want to get out? What are the objectives? We are a new team working together. And Jenny and Teresa are our most seasoned, being here a full year. And then Kate came in February, and then Craig and I and Sarah, all within the last 90 days to 2 weeks.
Wow.
So as a team, I want
I want us to build a team. I want us to care about each other professionally. You know, one of the first couple of days of me working here, I heard how the team talked to each other, and that was really disheartening for me. And I want to make sure that we learn how to clearly communicate professionally with each other, and that we care about each other, and that we all know our objective is to make sure our guests and the people that are on the phone are being serviced. But there's always, and we're all going to go about it different ways. But in the end, we're all marching to the same drum. We're all doing the same thing.
Good.
So that's what I'm objective. And the other is I'm not from the hospitality business. So a lot of this is new lingo to me, or a lot of this is new selling styles. And I'm out of my comfort zone. So I'm trying to get into a comfortable place. I have really great people around me that are professionals and know what they're doing within guest services and selling luxury homes. So I feel like I am surrounded by a good team that allows me to do my job as a manager. But I really need to know more about the hospitality business.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. This is a good intro, everybody. Thank you so much. So as you can guess, I am also the type of communicator that I'm not the kind of person that's like, so what's your astrological sign and what's your favorite food and tell me about your hobbies. And I like those things, but you'll learn more about how I communicate as well. That I do like to roll up my sleeves and get into the down and dirty nitty gritty. So hopefully you'll find this entire series to be meaty and valuable, and you're going to learn a lot about each other in a very fun way as well, but you're going to work hard. So it sounds to me like all of you are very up for that challenge, and you all sound like an extremely smart bunch of people. So I'm really excited to work with you, and I know Yolanda is as well. Is there anything else that anyone needs to add before we move on?
Game on.
Okay, let's do this. Do this. So let's just, I want to break down for you first. I'll back up the plan for today. So as we've gone through introductions, I want to start first with getting some thoughts on some luxury travel trends that are currently affecting you. You'll have some post work that Yolanda will send out to you, some articles that she has collected, a few of them that we'll share with you. And I think they'll also be extremely helpful, particularly for those of you that wanted to learn a little bit more about what's going on in the industry. But we have some to share that are more top line today as well. We will focus on debriefing the pre-event assessment, because I want you to understand your communication styles and also understand the communication styles of other guests as well. So part of your post work as well, and Yolanda, if you would prepare to kind of collect all of this for them in a, kind of a homework setup, I think that would be great. But you're going to get a collection of calls that we got for you, and we're going to ask you to guess the communication style of the guest, if you could, based on what we put together here. But we want you to know your style at the very least when you walk away from today. I want you to get familiar with your sales strategy. So I want to walk you through what a sales strategy is and get you comfortable with how that works. And we're also going to have a quick conversation about your competitive set calls that you should have listened to. You should feel pretty familiar with those, and also get you introduced to a structured process. So you'll have also, as part of your takeaway from today, a Salesforce process that will detail out sort of how you would walk through a sales call. So that's the plan for today. Let's start with getting you thinking a little bit about luxury sales in and of themselves. I've worked with quite a few 4- and 5-star hotels and resorts in my career, and I want to be able to share with you a little bit that I know to be true about them and things that I've collected through just working with other colleagues in this arena. I'm also a member of the Luxury Hotel Association. So in being part of that organization, I learn a fair amount about what's going on in the industry as well. So a few things that we know that are going on and things that I think are important for you to get familiar with are very top line ideas first. The first thing to think about is that we're on a service escalator that's always going down. So think about that for a second. What does that mean? We're on a service escalator that's always going down. What does that mean to you?
Never catch up.
You never catch up. So what does that mean, you never catch up? It means
To me, that's counterintuitive. I feel like the service is going down and you're trying to walk up the escalator as the escalator is actually going down.
But I guess I'm trying to, I'm not quite understanding, because it's like, we try to elevate our service, and we think that from the guest experience, from the first time their first call with us, it just keeps getting better and better, because they're like, they hear from our salespeople wow them, and then they hear from us and they're like, wow, you can do all of that for us. So from the guest standpoint, at least I would hope that we are elevating the guest experience because they booked with Moving Mountains.
But in the real world, are they getting the same type of service?
Yeah.
So for Moving Mountains, that's what we're trying to accomplish is up. But in, I guess, the industry, is the industry performing at that same level, or are consumers never feeling like they're getting that?
I think that the service in general is going down.
So the big idea with this is that the service expectation that a guest has is constantly changing. And the service that a guest had with you 5 years ago, or the experience that a guest had with you 5 years ago, is no longer good enough, because they have had experiences now in other countries and other continents with other companies, and they have most likely surpassed what they have experienced with you. So the expectation shifts. And when the expectation shifts, that means that we have to play a little bit of catch up. So what that means is what we did 5 years ago won't be good enough. That means that the shampoo cannot be the same shampoo that you offered 5 years ago. That means the service cannot be the same that you offered 5 years ago. That means the way that you booked ground transportation 5 years ago cannot be the same way that you book ground transportation now. It has to be faster. It has to be more expedient. It has to mean that if you didn't offer cold bottles of water 5 years ago, you better start, because you can bet that your competition is. So I want you thinking about that and thinking about what that means right at the point of sale. So point of sale meaning at the first contact that I have with you, and saying what we did 5 years ago no longer can cut that either. And of course, you don't know what was going on at Moving Mountains 5 years ago, but I do, because I've worked with Moving Mountains now for quite some time, and I can tell you a little bit about what's different now versus what was different then. So we have this opportunity now with this organization to say, hey, this is now how we roll, and this is so cool, right? You get this opportunity. So I'm going to share with you that there is a balancing act that always occurs with every organization. The balancing act between the unique offerings, what sets you apart from everybody else that you listen to, right? Every Frias, every Retreatia, every Travel Whisperer, everybody, and the unique guest needs, meaning what do they really want? So that balancing act gets messed up. If you're off balance, that experience can become broken before that guest even arrives. And that can be affected by several different things. So those things can really run the gamut between turnover, which we've experienced, budgetary constraints, gray market issues. It could be construction issues. It could be OTAs. It could be board decisions. It could be decisions about new management. It could be homeowner association issues. So whatever. But what we do know, especially when it comes to a luxury experience, is that over 50% of a guest experience comes from emotions that are created during that guest stay, with emotional drivers like warmth, excitement, and pleasure exceeding the rational benefits like location and features. So think about that. What does that mean to all of you in terms of what you offer at Moving Mountains? What makes,
Well, I think
yeah, go ahead.
I think last year was a good example where, you know, the rational benefits, I guess, location and feature, it was a really, really bad snow year, but people still came and their experience was, I mean, they still had a great time, regardless of the snow conditions. And so I think that came from their emotions during their stay. You know, they still had a great time. They enjoyed their family. They did other activities, even though the snow was crappy.
Yeah, right. So when the snow is good, what ends up happening now? Who do they choose when the snow is good? Do they go
We're
back?
still at the 2 times of our emotional drivers, right? So it's still the guest contact that right when they come in, we're asking them, and then we do our midweek call, and then we do our departure call. Just making sure that even though they're in a private home and they're not having a front desk, you know, right downstairs or whatever, you know, they still feel like we're always there at their beck and call. And making sure that they're well aware of that. I feel like those are huge emotional drivers compared to just going to, say, VRBO and renting from there, and you have one host that's got to take care of all these properties.
That's, yeah, right on, right on. So let's talk about the point of sale in just a second. So Yolanda, get ready. But I want you thinking about the point of sale and the luxury experience at the point of sale. So one of our friends, her name is Jane Griswold. She pulled this quote, and it's great. It's Abraham Maslow, and if you know Abraham Maslow, he's a psychologist that talks about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You know that, right? There are moments of ecstasy which cannot be bought, cannot be guaranteed, cannot even be sought, but one can set up the conditions so that peak experiences are more likely. So think about what is required, Craig, to make that experience that you just kind of detailed out even happen. What's required on the back end to make that experience you detailed out actually even just happen?
Well, I think, you know, it all begins with, you know, once we even start to pitch them, you know, letting them know about our services, beginning with guest service. And then the fact that they know that our guest service team is there is the first step. And then us actually executing, you know, providing those services, and then also maintaining that kind of service once they're actually here, not just making the sale, but actually post-sale as well, so that we create a long-lasting relationship with them.
There it is.
I can interject on that. It starts with you.
Well, yeah,
It starts with you figuring out, to get that peak experience, they have to be in the proper residence, right? If they're at One Steamboat Place or if they're in a home, whatever kind of experience they're looking for starts with when you're talking to them and you figured out this house is going to work for you way better than One Steamboat Place, or better than this, or better than that. I think that's how it all starts. They get that wow from walking in. They know Craig really listened to me, and Craig really, like, it starts that whole process before it even gets to guest services.
That's it. You are dead on, both of you, right and right. If you don't get it right at the point of sale, it becomes an avalanche of issues that you set up the rest of the organization to fail, and in turn you set up you, because in many cases you don't just handle the reservation, but you're checking that guest in, and you're probably arranging lift tickets, and you're probably doing something else while that guest is on property with you. So the guest experience becomes broken before a guest even arrives if we're off balance right at the point of sale. So this is what defines a luxury experience, particularly in the vacation rental arena. that we're talking about, this has become a very defining factor in 2018, specifically because of what has been going on in the vacation rental market. We're seeing more and more increased expectation in the vacation rental arena to have people like you on staff as an expectation. So now we're seeing, if you ask anyone from VRMA, the Vacation Rental Management Association, they're saying that people like you are essential to anybody that has a vacation rental home. Without them, don't even bother, because guests don't want to just rent from a guy who lives in Texas and has a home just sort of hanging out in the mountains somewhere and is not in any way attached to that product. There has to be someone who is really, it creates that sense of place, that makes sure that that guest is cared for while on property. If there's an issue, that they're there, that is anticipating that guest needs before that guest even arrives. So you are an essential piece of the entire puzzle. Now, let's get back to the luxury conversation. So now I'm thinking about you as, hey, you offer this luxury product, right? What makes you different than, I'm just going to, pick something, Sheraton Steamboat. What makes you different than the Sheraton Steamboat? Oh, so much, right? I mean,
Well,
you've
yeah.
all been in that market for a long time. So just what makes you different?
I think, well, first of all, locality. I mean, even if you book a Sheraton Steamboat, you probably talk to somebody in Atlanta or wherever the Starwood headquarters are.
Uh-huh.
Probably never seen snow, or certainly never skied on it. And they may be able to say, yeah, the Sheraton Steamboat is a CNCL property, but they don't even know what that means.
Yep. How about Tori and Plum? What makes you different than them?
Well, I mean, if you like a dated 2-3 bedroom condo, sure, go for it. But,
Yeah.
if you actually want high quality of what you're actually used to, what's close to your home, and it's not just a condo, this is a full residence where you're going to get the best guest service in Steamboat.
Yeah.
Well, and do you really want to go on vacation and be in a home that's less desirable than the home you live in day to day? Like, I want to go to a place that is nicer than what I live in.
Yeah.
I want to upgrade on my vacation. Yep.
Totally.
I don't want to go for my granite countertop system for my kid, and like if you're used to that level, that's a major difference.
We did a walkthrough yesterday, and the lady said, "Oh, we've got 7.5 bathrooms here." I will not stay in a single place that does not have more than 6 bathrooms, because that's what I have at my house. Yeah. I'm like, all right, whatever works for you, but it's the same.
Right. You don't want to downgrade.
She honestly said this to me during the walkthrough. I'm like, okay.
So I hear the words dated. I hear I want something better than. It's the same. I hear a lot of that sort of homogenous stuff. Steamboat Grand, yeah, it's full service. It's comprehensive. It includes dining, possibly activities. So it's kind of in the middle of this pyramid, right? But it's very homogenous. Some elements of luxury service interactions are less transactional, perhaps. You're in a totally different arena even from that. I mean, I see you way up here at the top. You're in the more comprehensive, bespoke offering kind of arena. So, sorry. I don't know why I get so frisky.
We know our guests intimately. By the time they walk through that door, we're on first name basis, and we know about their entire life. So the personalized attention is definitely one of our main goals, it seems, or at least that's what we do. Whereas if you walk to the concierge down at the Sheraton or wherever, they're not going to greet you by your name and know everything about you.
So
know.
Here it is. We know because we don't. It's not because we want to know or because we were told that we have to know. It's because essentially we need to know. It's like as essential as breathing for us, because it's a passion of ours. And being in the luxury hospitality arena as long as I have, I can say that I am a stalker. I will Google people and Facebook people, guests, I mean.
You've
And
never done that.
You don't do that.
when you do, that's like next level stuff. Yeah. There's nothing stopping you from doing that though. And a lot of properties that I work with do that. And they build profiles of their guests because that is the level of clientele that they have. That actually brings steamer trunks full of 30 pairs of shoes. So when you're working with that type of clientele, the expectation is that the personalization is starting way before they even pick up the phone. So the reservation process becomes more of a, we have been expecting you. We were waiting for you to call. Luxurious accommodations, including exclusive design and artwork, landscaping and architectural features. Employees are hired for personality, meaning you were not just hired to pick up the phone, ladies and gentlemen. You were hired for the essence of you. And I think that's important to know. Your passion for service was something that Robin certainly was attracted to. Amy was certainly attracted to. You are provided behavioral and leadership training, which is one of the reasons why you are here. Service standards exceed outside organizations' requirements. There aren't many other organizations in Steamboat that do what you do or even attempt what you attempt, and there's a reason for that. So what you are up to today is something bigger than what you are up to today. And you have a ways to go in some areas, but you also are on the precipice of realizing this in a much fuller way than even where you are right now. So what do we have to do to sell that? How do we sell it? First of all, perceived value is a requirement. So it's not even a conversation about price. Honestly, Craig, we're not working with the type of a guest that it's not about price. There's something else there. It's about value. So when we get into objections in webinar 4, and the conversation will be about that, nobody's objecting to the price. They're objecting to the value. So when we can get them to see the value in through the eyes that we need to understand their eyes, then we'll get it. We have to eliminate the suggestion of commodity. And you as an organization get in trouble sometimes because you get really discount happy. And sometimes this creates the suggestion of commodity. So we have to approach how we discount perhaps in a different way. So that way we can stop playing that commodity game. Does that make sense? We have to delineate the superiority of your brand. So that's another way that we sell luxury, is that we don't even compete. We don't have competitors. So thinking about Retreatia and thinking about who are the other ones, Yolanda? Retreatia.
The Lodging Company, Travel Whisperer, Triumph, Pioneer Ridge, Prius.
Okay. So we want to get to the point where we don't even see them as competition. So this is where we're going to probably talk about them here. Let me finish up these bullets and then let's chat about that. But I don't want the conversation to even be that they're better at anything than we are. We want to be able to include exclusivity, attention to detail, and presentation. That should be part of how we describe our product. So those elements need to be carried through in how we're even describing our product, not in a pretentious way. So that tends to be sort of sometimes a misunderstood element of how we sell luxury. Luxury doesn't mean that we have to sound like snobs. Luxury means that we have a stronger sense of what it means to be exclusive or detailed, or that we have that just an elevated level in all senses of the word, just the elements of what we have. Selling, so here's the key thing, self-elevation. What does that mean? What are elements of self-elevation or examples of self-elevation?
What we're selling? Is that what you're asking? Like how we're selling the self-elevation? Like how the person can perceive them in this luxury house? And
think of all right, I'll make something up. Let's say, who said that, by the way?
Jenny.
Hi, Jenny. So Jenny, let's say that you buy yourself a gorgeous, you know, several $1,000 Louis Vuitton bag. Okay?
Okay.
Is that something that you need?
Yeah. Didn't your mother teach you that?
Why?
No, I'm kidding.
All about bags. Why do you need it?
Right. Oh, no. Of course, you do not need it. No.
What does it provide you when you have one? What do you get? It's just a bag. What do you get?
It is your super status self.
Status. Okay, so that's the self-elevation piece. You get status. What else do you get?
Maybe some confidence.
Confidence.
And people notice if you walk through the airport carrying your Louis Vuitton, people are like,
That's $1,000. I only have chapstick in there, but yeah, don't even walk in there.
So in relation to Moving Mountains specifically, like I think the Luxury Cadence Chalet is, you have spoken to this at length when your private Suburban and your driver roll up at the base of the mountain and everybody else is getting on a people mover and their stuff is flying and you've got your chalet host just whisking you away. That's elevation above the masses. You're all of a sudden in an upper tier. Yeah. Like here's the regular folk. Yeah. And here we are.
You got it.
Right. And you
People
feel
work
that.
hard.
Yeah. And everybody
You're in
loves
first
that on
class,
vacation.
yeah.
Everybody.
You're in first class out the back of the bus. Right.
So that is the piece that has to be a key brand differentiator. That's going to give you, I think, a lot of power when it comes to selling this product. So what is the self-elevation? Is it status, confidence, recognition? Are they the same pieces of self-elevation for a Moving Mountains vacation as they are for a Louis Vuitton bag? Is it the same, or is it something else?
I also think, again, knowing your audience, that it might be the privacy of you're just blending in with the masses, but in a private way. You're getting the things that you're used to, your normal life in terms of they're used to private shuttles, they're used to a way of life that is not our current way of life, how we currently live, but that's their normal and that's their expectation.
And so to downgrade to take a shuttle or whatever would take away from their vacation.
Exactly. So
yeah. Is this helping to get you thinking about how we look at our product a little differently?
Yeah.
They travel with their nanny because they need to. Okay, it's for them, it's not, oh, it'd be really nice. They see it as, I need to travel with my nanny. So,
and again, it goes back to, you're not going to downgrade on vacation. If you have a nanny Monday through Friday or 7 days a week at home, you're not going to go on vacation without it.
that's it.
God forbid, yeah, vacation. So,
If not, there better be
Yeah.
one there.
Yeah.
exactly.
well, it goes to our brand and knowing that they come to us because they get that service. They aren't going to have to downgrade. They get what they get, what they're used to.
Yeah.
And we can provide that, I think, better than any of our competitors.
Selling them on a gorgeous gourmet kitchen doesn't matter if they don't cook, right? I mean,
Have one at home.
I have a friend that has a brand new home. Her gourmet kitchen, my kitchen, let's say 4 of my kitchens could fit in one of her kitchens. And she's like, Erica, I'm so embarrassed. I only use that microwave. And I'm like, Erin, are you joking? Because I would love this kitchen. And she's like, I just don't use it. I don't have time and I don't like cooking. And I'm like, okay, you're killing me. So, but for her to go on vacation, she needs the kitchen. For who? Who does she need the kitchen for?
And her chef.
Yeah.
And or her nanny
But she's used to that.
or her parents. So those are so knowing that gets me thinking about the kinds of qualifying questions that I'm going to have to ask, or the way in which I'll have to ask the qualifying questions, which then helps me to figure out what self-elevation looks like for Erin.
Or knowing that guest, because we don't want to just assume that we're going to say, oh, wow, this kitchen has a wolf stove, and they're like, no, I have one of those.
I'm on vacation. I'm not cooking.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
what we think is a good selling point for that house is they're like, yeah, I can one up you on that because I've got whatever. Yeah.
And for me, a vacation is being able to make a chicken stock that simmers for 3 days straight. For me, that's like heaven. I want to do that, but other people are like, ew, gross. Why would I want to do that? So that's the kind of stuff we want to try to figure out during a call. Okay, so Yolanda, let's talk about these competitors that are also selling luxury.
Sure. So with everything we just talked about, we have an exclusive brand and we want to promote that. We want to figure out what these people need, what their needs are, what their wants are, and really hone in on that when we're building our relationship, right? So I did some calls to some of your competitors, and these might be, they may not have all of the luxury homes that you have, but the idea behind them is the same. And if there's something that they're doing well, we want to be able to hear that. So you guys use the Navis system, right? Records all of your calls. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how often we listen to ourselves, but there's so much that can be learned. Something Erica always says with Guest Service Solutions is the guests don't know what they don't know. We need to educate them. We need to teach them. We need to find out what's important to them and sell them on the value of what we have and how it pertains to them and would make for an enjoyable experience for them. So if we're listening to ourselves or we're listening to some competitive set calls here that we have, it's going to teach us a little bit about what they're doing that works well. We want to create a value and take price out of the equation. Well, if we're finding out what's important to these people, what their needs are, then we know their price point to an extent, and we don't even have to put it as an obstacle first. We can put their needs first. So I assigned you all, or Erica and I assigned you all to listen to 2 calls. And I want to go over some of them that I thought went really well first, and just see what your takes on them were. So let's look at Travel Whisperer. And I think, well, Sarah, you listened to all of them, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
So I'm going to have you kind of fill in. I had Lisa assign some, but I'm going to have you fill in Elisa's spots if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Sarah and Teresa listened to the Travel Whisperer call. And I just want to hear a couple of things that you heard that they did well, maybe some things you thought stuck out, maybe some things they could improve upon. Just what did you notice from these calls?
Was that the last one or the second to last one?
Second to last.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that female.
It was a guy. It was a guy.
Oh, that's
Who?
the one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Shocking. Yeah. Well, just comparing the two that I listened to, the Travel Whisperer and Retreatia, is Retreatia was just strictly. We'll go into more details on them later, but it was just strictly checking the boxes, going down the list. They were just booking the lodging, and they didn't even talk about the lodging on the call. They were just like, okay, how many rooms do you need? How many guests? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'll get back to you. I'll email you some choices, right? So it was I just got the sense that it was just a booking agent, transactional. Whereas the Travel Whisperer was very much more, more like a travel agent where, which is what I think, not that we're a travel agent, but I think we connect that way. And I think the gentleman on that call, the Travel Whisperer guy, was very good. He spent a lot of time on the phone with the guest, really got to know her. It took a while to kind of get the conversation rolling, but he talked about just the home, the area, the activities, really got to understand what the guest was looking for in a vacation. So, and I think he prompted some good conversation and some good responses. So that, just comparing the two, it was an obvious difference. And so I thought he did a nice job.
Okay. And Sarah, did you notice anything that stuck out necessarily maybe with that Travel Whisperer call? Hey, everybody.
Thank you.
Sorry. We're going on a boat ride.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm going, oh, those are some very nice drop ceilings.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah, well,
Turn the box upside down.
I agree with the Retreatia. That one, it was color by numbers, kind of just checking the boxes. I personally would have felt a little bit annoyed with the gentleman's phone call. He sounded more long-winded, more interested in kind of regurgitating facts that he might have read off the internet as opposed to personalizing that experience. He talked a lot. Like, if that was my phone call, I would have been like, sweetie, it's my vacation.
Yeah.
So I don't really want to hear your ums and buts and 17 long-winded things about the chalet shuttle. And he seemed a little wishy-washy in making the commitment to what that person really wanted. He offered a lot of information to sound like a local, and that alone probably would have bothered me. But I didn't really feel like it was you on the phone, right, Yolanda? That was your phone call? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think we got where you were from once, and then you talked a little bit about the weather. He went really long into last year's ski vacation, what the weather was like 2 years ago. Like, who cares about that?
Oh yeah, that conversation got a little sidetracked. It was
like 18 and a half minutes, almost a 20-minute conversation with no booking. So I was like, what? And you just wasted half of an hour there.
No, that wasted time.
Yeah. So that's kind of one thing that I felt. It could have gone a little bit faster, and he seemed to want to talk more about his experience and not really finalize that sale. And that was a little
Okay. So this shows us a couple of things. So number one, we liked some things that we did. We liked that he got to know about the guest. We feel like he could have delved more into what was important to her, where she was from, and why she was coming, right? What she was looking for versus, okay, you're from here. Great. Let me tell you everything about this place. From a guest perspective, I did feel like he had interest in me. I did. And I felt that he had my best interest, at heart. And he was giving me things that I didn't know yet.
Why did you feel that way?
Because I had never been there and I really didn't know a lot about it. So I was asking a couple questions about the weather last year, and I do agree he was long-winded. Okay, that was I was like, okay, well, thanks. I'm going to go now. Let me know. It was important as a guest. I felt like he was on my side. Like he was kind of understanding where I was coming from, my feelings. So I think that we can take some of the good things from that call was the fact that he did get to know me. He did ask questions that pertain to what was important to me. And if we're going to, what I'm trying to say here.
And where you wanted to stay, he took a long time with that too. I thought that was appreciative.
He did. As far as the Retreatia conversation, I definitely felt like they needed a lot of improvement there as well. It was mostly order taking. So we have to find a balance between the asking the right amount of questions to find out about the guest and maybe making it long-winded. It did sound like he was overselling products to me a little bit. He was overselling, like you said, he could have Googled those facts. He was definitely overselling the area and this and that instead of focusing on what was important to me.
All right. So in any of those cases, go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, and I think, too, the Travel Whisperer, they also deal with a lot of other areas, not just one location where we're just Steamboat specific. So I think that we hopefully come across that we have more authentic in knowledge because we're locals, and this is the only market that we work on. He probably has to remember, all these other areas, and it shows in some instances. Yeah.
However, he was giving me a broad perspective of what he can do to help me. That could potentially lead to me being a loyal user of his company. So you have to take that into consideration with your own company and your own locations. Getting to know this person. So we're selling them things and we're creating a relationship so they'll come back to us when maybe they bring the entire family or they come with a large group. So taking those things into consideration. Erica, do you understand where I'm going there?
I absolutely do.
Okay.
There's a bigger play.
Yeah. How about, let's see. How about the Steamboat Lodging Company?
Yeah.
Craig.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of, at first I didn't like how the conversation was going for about the first 3 minutes or so, but it definitely perked up after that point. First, you called Steamboat Lodging Company, but I don't know if their phone system just doesn't recognize the fact that you called Steamboat Lodging Company, not just the lodging company, because she had to ask, what town are you interested in? And immediately, personally, I'd be like, okay, I'll hear what you say because I'm respectful, but I'm not gonna deal with you anymore because I know that you're not from the area. And personally, that's
a little short-tempered, a little rude. Yeah.
Yeah. And she was definitely short with you when you're like, oh, I mean Steamboat, like didn't I call Steamboat Lodging Company? And she was like, no, you've got to give me your location, your destination.
Oh, wow.
But then after that, she definitely chipped up a bit and definitely became a lot more friendly with you. And I felt like she started, it wasn't the most connecting, but after that point, I feel like she realized that she had messed up and she needed to guide you onto the right path at that point.
Right.
She actually laughed at one point, didn't she? She got it.
Yeah. You both.
She got a giggle out of herself.
So how about, Craig, when you were listening, maybe towards the end of the call, did you get the sense of any sort of closing techniques? Did you hear any closing techniques here? What was your
first? I thought that she was really just trying to build the quote and get it over to you instead of closing right then and there.
And she was.
If she wanted to send the quote, she could just say, "Hey, hang on the line while I get this together, send it over to you, and then we can go through the properties together." And just kind of cut down that one interaction by sending it. You review it, then let's get in contact again. Where just hang on the line. You'll receive this email, and then let's go over it together and get this settled right now.
Did you feel like if you were me in that call, that conversation was over at that point?
Oh yeah. I would have been like, okay, yep, give me the quote, and let me move on to the next company to call, because, like I said in the beginning of that call, you lost me already.
So what I took away from this call was very much that she was confusing to the guest in the beginning. Okay, when you're calling Moving Mountains, obviously you wanna book something with you. When I called Steamboat Lodging Company, I played dumb. I didn't know all that they had in their portfolio. I knew where I wanted to go, and I want them to be sensitive to me about that and get to know me. She did ask some qualifying questions, but kept it very short. And then I felt like she pushed me off. Like, okay, well, I'm going to get in touch with you later, but I'm going to get some quotes together. I'm going to send them over. That did not give me an experience. That gave me a potential next step. But it didn't close anything for me. It didn't get me excited. It didn't give me an anticipation of when we're going to connect next. I felt as a caller kind of dropped. I felt like, oh, does she really need my business? So in my estimation, I didn't feel like that was very strong at all. I kind of felt like I was left to hang out to dry, and that was it. Should I just call somewhere else? Should I call someone who's going to understand me more, who's going to ask me more questions, who's going to, see what I'm looking for? Erica, I'm not sure if you had a chance to listen. I think you listened to the Travel Whisperer. We talked about that one pretty in depth. And it's interesting to hear, from an agent perspective or the guest perspective, just the strengths that were within that call. It could have been wrapped up. It was very long. I felt that as the guest, but I also felt that he was looking out for me and he was trying to make a good experience
Well,
for
and
me.
some of that goes to knowing your audience. If I didn't listen to the Travel Whisperer call, I apologize. But if the guest is continuing to engage, if you've got a stay-at-home mom at home with all her kids are gone for the day, heck, they might want to talk about the weather for an hour. It goes to knowing your audience. If Yolanda continued to act interested in that conversation, then even though that's not how you maybe would have responded, and I think you've got to realize that had I had you on the phone, and you would have been like, okay, can we move on? Then hopefully that agent, Patrick, would have handled it differently. But it sounds like Yolanda was pretty engaging in, hey, let's talk about the weather. So you kept going down that road. So you kind of got to know your audience, right? And
is there a tactful way that you guys would suggest how to find out how much time the guest has for this phone call?
Yes.
I think that sounds to me like one of the objectives, right? And especially in this day and age, everybody's doing things, quick and easy and in the car and, whenever they can. Is there a way, is it a direct question? Is it something that you should be asking? Oh, hi, Mrs. Smith, great to meet you, blah, 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 blah. And somewhere in the beginning of that dialogue is like, there you go.
so, respect.
Yes.
That's a very
Amy, I'm glad you asked. And this is one of the things that I think we forget to do, is that there are a lot of different commitments that we need to be securing from a guest during a conversation. When we get these commitments, and starting right at, I believe, 12 o'clock. Yeah, 12 o'clock. First one is time. Ms. Davis, how much time do we have today? Or, I know that your time is really valuable and I want to make sure that we make the most of it. So what do you want to make sure that we accomplish today? Or it sounds to me like you only have about 10 minutes here on your lunch hour. So at the very least, I want to make sure that we get a good picture of what the perfect residence looks like so that I can start doing some investigating. Does that sound like a good plan to you, Ms. Davis? So I want to make sure that I'm honoring where you are right now. If you have all the time in the world, as Yolanda does, then I'm honoring that as well. But I have to start there. If I don't get a yes there, I can't even start asking for the sale. I can't even be building a relationship with you. So that's going to be part of this journey in this series is start right. If you don't start right, you're hosed. Does that help?
I think there are also oftentimes a lot of clues without having to ask directly. You know, if somebody's, you can often tell if they're in the car. Yeah, I mean, you know, there are some background clues that you can pick up. On the background noise, their kids are screaming in the background. You know, you got hurry that along.
It sounds
those
like
kind
you're
of
on your way somewhere. So what are you hoping to accomplish today? It sounds like we may need to continue the conversation, and I want to make sure that we do that. Let's definitely plan for another conversation, though. So that's the other thing. It's not like, oh, well, when you have time and you're feeling frisky during your next coffee break, call me back. I want to plan something with this person. And that's what we forget to do sometimes. And then it goes into the abyss and we never hear from that person again.
So how about the call, Kate? I want to hear your perspective on the call to Triumph.
Oh, Triumph. No, sorry. I thought we were going with Pioneer Ridge Management. I did not listen to Triumph. I'm not going to lie to you. Didn't get that one.
Who did listen to Triumph?
Pioneer Ridge. But no, I'm sorry.
Right.
I remember that one.
I did Freya's.
Is that the first one?
Freya's and
Triumph?
I did Freya's, right?
Yeah, Freya's.
We might have missed Triumph. Sorry.
Yeah.
So if we have an opportunity to go back, I would say this was probably one of the better calls that I listened to, or that I had, and then I went back and listened to. For a variety of reasons. We did get a time commitment in there. She wanted to know, you know, what was going to work for me, what wasn't going to work for me right off the bat. She engaged me as, like Jenny was saying, she got my name and she used it throughout the call. So important to me in building a relationship and giving me the comfort level and the respect I needed to then divulge information about myself and what I was looking for to this agent. She not only told me about my lodging, but she used language such as you and your family instead of I have here, or we have, or they've got, which you hear a lot. She put my family into the picture, which was so important. She told me things that I could do, things I could see, actual places I should eat. She asked me questions about if I was going to be doing this, that, or the other, and where I could go to start off the day for that. She created an entire experience and then gave me the opportunity to object to, well, we don't really like that. To, that doesn't really work for us. We did that last time, or whatever it might be. So she actually got to know me and what I needed. So really encouraged this one. I would say it was probably one of the better. And as far as closing techniques go, I heard a lot of different closes. Erica, if you want to bring up that little circle again.
Sure. I would be delighted to, Yolanda.
That'd be great.
Your wish is my command.
Thank you, darling. We heard a sense of urgency.
Whatever
She actually
you like.
asked me if I was ready to make the investment, if I was ready to take care of this and get it in the works. Then I was like, well, I don't know. I had objections. She came back to collaborate with me some more and figure out what it is that wasn't working. That, checking in and reviewing the information was so important in this call. And then also when there was lulls where she was looking, she had conversation that pertained to this day, not to the weather, not to the vacation 2 years ago, but to this actual trip for us. And then, she did end up ultimately sending me a quote and moving on to the next time we would talk, but she set a time. We made a decision when we were going to speak moving forward. So I felt like there was a beginning, there was a middle, there was a relationship, the potential for a loyal, relationship as me as a guest going forward, and an actual close that I felt I was taken care of. I felt like.
Did she follow through on the follow-up time and schedule?
Did.
Good. I'm just curious.
Yep. So, and And I feel so bad when I blow them off, but such is life. But I really felt like there was a clear beginning, middle, and a next phase. So
We'll go back and listen to that. Maybe we can kind of sit down and do it as a team.
As a team,
Yeah.
as a team, there are tons of things that you guys can do much better and maybe pull out those areas. But this is a pretty good start. This is a pretty good start.
Oh, one of the things I noticed too, I forgot to bring up, is in the Retreatia call. I think it was the Retreatia call, which goes to the importance of the first person who answers the phone, because it may not be the sales
And the
office.
Oh, yeah.
And so whether it's our front desk or anybody else in the company, it was a bad first impression because, it was just kind of like, hello, it wasn't, didn't ask for the person's name, just was not very friendly, was not a very good first impression before you even got over to the salesperson.
And you know what, I would just to follow up on that, there was that, but then also she was being transferred. And you can tell there was a conversation because it was transferred and then transferred again.
Yeah.
And they were set up with, hey, this is Mrs. Smith or whoever the person's name was. She's looking for how many beds, and she was giving them 2 things that she was even asked for. And then the girl was like, oh, and like, what's your name? What are you looking for? All
every guest had already said.
Yeah, it was all repeat information. And I was like, we have to do a really good job of making sure that when we transfer calls.
You set me up really well this morning.
Oh,
this is Trevor.
Yeah.
He's looking for this weekend. And I closed it in the first call because I was able to start.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got a place this weekend.
Yeah.
So it's something, kind of our own, best practices to how we
So
work.
I definitely agree with you in the handoff was not great. I had no idea that she wasn't going to make my reservation. It didn't sound very high end to me. I mean, she was nice, but she didn't ask me my name. She didn't say, she didn't introduce or identify herself and then explain what was going to happen. And I just went on to say the same things over again. It was a very big waste of my time.
And wasn't it a really long time? I heard you guys discuss
That was
Yeah, it was a while.
That is like, Fria's, I guess, I don't know how to say that. Is that their name, Fria's?
Frias.
Right.
Fria's. Just from a company perspective, what do we have in terms of what does a hold time look like? When does a voicemail kick in? A guest waiting on 10-minute holds is not acceptable behavior from a company, from a brand. So I got to look into. So that one made a red flag to me. Like, I don't know what our phone system currently does. I can't imagine it does that, but I want to look into that for
It
sure.
starts ringing back if it's like
But ours is pretty long with the initial call in. That's why I would say we gotta grab the phone right away. You've already been on hold, and I know me. If I'm sitting on hold phone, I'm out.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm gonna wait.
With the Frias, I have a different direction to go with that call. How did you think the qualifying portion of the call went as far as, I asked, what location do you think would work for me? I just flat out asked her that. How do you think
Which one?
the Frias call?
Oh, Frias.
Is this the one you're talking about? I
Yeah.
don't understand. Sorry, Yolanda, you're breaking in and out, so I can't.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I don't know, you're talking about the Frias call?
Yes.
So, you want to go first on that one? I have some notes on that one, but you want me to? I'll respond to your question. I don't think in regards to the qualifiers, you kind of seen the whole situation was very passive in my mind. The young lady was not engaging. Forget about the 10-minute hold, but everything was kind of vague, and it seemed to me like you needed direction. And the only qualifiers that she really got out of you was it was 3 couples, I think. And then she tried to put you all in bunk beds. So she didn't even listen to the one qualifier that you responded with. And then on top of that, I think I wrote down, it took 9 minutes and 16 seconds before she even asked you your name. 9 minutes of talking to this young lady. She didn't even know who she was talking to. And the only reason why she got your name was because she was sending you a quote with your email. And she might have asked your email before your name.
Yes.
And like, I listen to these guys all the time because we're in an open office. And they would never. So I was very critical on her call because I judged it against what they do. And so my notes are not very complimentary towards this young woman whatsoever because they would never do these things. It was the weirdest conversation. It seemed like you really wanted her to help you. And she was just like, blah, 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 blah. Oh, you have 3 couples? Well, we've got this place. It's got 2 rooms with bunk beds and 1 king bed. I'm like, yeah, every couple wants to go on vacation and stay in a bunk bed. I'm like,
Here were some of the words she was using to describe their accommodations. Nice. This one's good. It's not bad. That one's okay. I like it more than.
And
So-
she sent you to a competitor's website.
Yeah.
Do you remember that part?
What, Mountain Resorts?
She actually
she
sent
put
her
that
to a competitor's website. Oh, why don't you go look at this such and such website? Not look at our website.
Yeah.
Look
I
at,
felt like she was a brand new employee. In my mind, she had no idea if the rates were up for the next season that you were inquiring about. It felt like to me she was answering a phone that she had no business answering, and she was trying her best. So I was taking a little bit of a softer approach with her.
wow, right? Don't you know her?
3 years.
No, you're thinking
No,
of Anna.
I was talking about
No,
This is
Right.
right.
Yeah.
We've been able
So
to
yeah,
kind
in my mind,
we've been able to kind of pick apart what we liked and what we didn't like. We hear a lot more of what we didn't like than what we did. How do you feel that they would dissect your calls?
Oh, probably the same way.
Oh, yeah.
For sure, everybody. And you know what? I think we're uber critical of ourselves too. So that's, at least we're fair, you know?
And to be fair, everybody has good calls and bad calls.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we do listen to our Navis recordings, and I listen to my own, and I listen to the team. And, you know, sometimes you're like, dang, that was amazing. Check all the boxes. And then sometimes you're like, whoa, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like feeling like I did a few of my calls. I was just like, that was absolutely terrible. And then I listened to other ones, like Kate said, you're just like, wow, I killed on that one. That was great.
Yeah.
Right.
So in comparison, I want to do kind of a round table. What are some of the strengths that you saw that you believe that you embody, and some of the weaknesses that you think you could improve on that you may do as well?
The phone call.
And our call and how we do our call.
Compare yourselves to maybe what you heard and some of the strengths that you saw that you embody, and some of the weaknesses that you also improve.
I mean, I have worked recently really hard on asking those leading questions. I think I do a fairly good job of, before getting to dates, costs, you know, who's coming, what are your plans? Do you need bunk beds? You know, if there's 4 kids, can they all share a room? Asking some of those questions. I've spent a lot of time focused on that, so I hope that I'm doing it well. I don't feel like I do a great job closing, especially in first call. I do tend to default to, well, let me give you a quote for that, and I do try to set a follow-up time and date, but I could do a better job of saying, does that sound good? Give me your credit card in a nicer way.
Yeah.
But, you know, and that goes back to shortening that sales cycle a little bit of, instead of all this.
Oh, we lost them.
We got to call back in.
Whoops.
I got him. Got him. We got you.
We're back.
We got you.
Can you hear us?
Hear you?
We got you.
Yeah.
So yeah, just completing that close quicker and in
Okay.
a more fashion, yeah, would be my default.
In the interest of time, I just took a look at the clock. Maybe we should move forward if that's okay with everybody else, unless somebody has one big thing like, hey, I just kind of noticed this as a result of having this conversation. Did anyone have any big sort of aha moment?
No.
Okay, fair enough. Well, thank you for taking the time to listen to those. I wanted to point out the big thing that I heard in all of these calls was that I don't think in any conversation was I really hearing luxury being sold. Not in verbiage, not in the quality of the product. I think in pretty much every conversation, every salesperson was really relying on photos on the website to sell the product for them. And that is, to me, what I see as being your major brand differentiator. The more you are able to verbally sell that product in a luxury fashion, I think the higher the likelihood you will have in converting that call into a sale in a shorter period of time, Teresa. So 50% of a guest's overall satisfaction with their entire experience lies in the reservation sales process. So what that means is the better job you do, and we already talked about this a little bit, remember just a little while ago, the more work you do on the front end to find the perfect match for that guest, the higher the likelihood will be that they're going to have a better experience. But even more so, the more work you do on the front end to make sure that we're teeing up that luxury experience and they're quite aware of the type of experience that they're going to have, the higher the likelihood will be that they're going to understand the value of the product, and the more open they're going to be to those cross-selling and upselling opportunities and the guest services opportunities that then will become available to them as well. They're going to understand the type of product that they're really buying. So it's not about the commodity product anymore. It's not about the price tag. So the buying tension that Craig experiences goes away. The fact that the selling cycle becomes so large and some of you might feel like you're playing let's make a deal will start to go away. So it becomes a lot simpler because you're playing on a different level. So Yolanda, wonderful job. Thank you so much for having this conversation with us about these calls. I appreciate it so much because I want us to know that, yeah, there are competitors out there that see you as competitors. I don't want you seeing them as competitors. I want you looking in the rearview mirror, but I don't want you seeing them as competitors. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, thank you.
Of course, of course. So what's going to matter most? Planning is the most important part. High income earners, the experience becomes most important as long as it's a great experience with the least amount of hassle. That's our job. Make it fun, make it easy, hassle-free. Guests are calling because they want to talk to you. So this is the other thing to remember. They called you, right? You didn't call them and say, hey, you want to buy a vacation? I got a vacation to sell you. That's not what you're doing. So they called because they want to talk to you. And when you understand that, it completely shifts everything that you're doing and why you're doing it, and then in turn the strategy that you'll take to get there. So let's think about that strategy. This is going to come to you in the form of a workbook that you'll get after today. But the strategy, which you'll see in further detail for those of you that like reading things, this starts fundamentally with building a strong relationship. You're building a base, and that's going to be in how you greet that caller at the beginning, how you get them in the right mind space with you right from the very beginning of the conversation, asking for a commitment of time. Are you and I both in the same mental space right from the beginning? 80% of us buy from people that we like. So how do we get there at the same time? Same space, same time. Qualifying properly. So it's great to ask qualifying questions, but these are not qualifying questions. What are your dates? How many in your party? If that's what you think qualifying questions are, then you might as well just hang up the phone and let them go online and do it themselves. That's not qualifying, at least not with a luxury product. So we're going to get better at it. Reducing buying tension. The only tension should be when a credit card needs to come out of their wallet. So we want to make it easy and comfortable and effortless for them. So that's building a strong base. Once you get there, then you can start matching the product to the caller. So what is their steamboat experience? What does that steamboat experience look like? That effortless steamboat experience that they're looking for in through their eyes. Painting the picture of what the one steamboat life is going to be while they're with us here. And then getting them in the right residence. Sometimes we jump the gun and we start talking price, not necessarily too early, but we don't create the value around that price. And then guests only get sticker shock and they're going, whoa, wait, what? How much? You're kidding me. That's crazy. And we lose them. We lose them way too fast. I can't move this. So we want to slow it down so that we make the right match for that guest and be able to ask for the sale properly. If I don't create value and match that right residence in the right destination, in the right location to the right guest, because I've done my homework, then I cannot ask for the sale. So that's a tee up that has to be done strategically and it has to be done properly. I cannot come back down the mountain here and overcome objections unless I've created value either. So unless I've asked for the sale, unless I've gained sort of a level of commitment to the product that I've at least sort of exposed them to, I can't even start to get any other commitment to collaborate on that idea or commitment to consider that option. So there are some other things that have to happen here. Maybe I need to get a next level of commitment on talking more about that and uncovering the idea. Then I can secure reservation details, include the add-ons, detail next steps, end the call, getting back to the base, creating anticipation for the upcoming trip. So this sales strategy will be detailed out for you in a workbook. You can read in detail. I want you to be prepared with this for next week. We'll kind of kick it off though, talking about you. We'll do part 1 of understanding your communication style today. Part 2 is probably going to come up a little bit more though also next week. I want you to know yourself pretty well here. So let's change the conversation a little bit here. When 2 people meet, there are 6 people present. There's each man as he sees himself, each man as he wants to be seen, and each man as he really is. What does that mean to you? What do you think that means?
Yeah. Pretty deep.
Yeah. But you wonder which one of those, if you're in a conversation, what does the other person think, which of those 3 people does the other person think you are?
Yeah.
Which one can you connect with them to, into which one that you're trying to relate to sell this product to?
Yeah. Who am I really talking to? Right? Who's the one that's buying this? And
it's all over the phone. There's no physical interaction. You can't read body language.
Say it again.
Like you can't read body language, so you're already everything's just from the auditory, right?
Yeah.
There's no physical animation going on, and
So we can get a different impression of someone just by how they sound on the phone.
Exactly.
So, right. So I decide whether or not I like you in person by nonverbals, tone of voice, and your words, right? So when I meet you for the first time, it only takes me 3 seconds to decide I like you, I don't like you. You're smart, you're not smart. You're going to figure this out, you're not going to figure this out. You're educated, you're not educated. You are lazy, you're a hard worker. I make a lot of judgments about you in 3 seconds, and that's based on nonverbals, tone of voice, words that you use. 55% of that is nonverbal. 38% of that is tone of voice. Only 7% of that is the words that you use. It's not what you say, it's
how you say it.
Always, right? So what happens when I'm on the phone? that changes, right? Because I don't have all of this going on anymore. All I have is this. So 80-20. 80% of my likability comes through on my tone of voice. 20% is now my words. So yeah, there are 6 people present. There's each man as I see myself, each man as I want to be seen, and each of us as we really are. So wouldn't it be awesome if we got to sort of that authentic conversation with everybody, right? Where I get to sell to each man as they really are. I get to have a conversation with the real person, that I understand the self-elevation elements for that person as they see themselves and as they want to be seen. And if I'm selling to somebody's ego, what are those sort of egocentric pieces and what do they want? So there's a lot of like psychology and emotional intelligence stuff that kind of sits in that world. And there are things that you all have to navigate as a team there as well, right? I mean, think of conversations you've had to have at work. I'm sure. So understanding how you all communicate is really important, and how you all come off to each other non-verbally and with your own tone of voice and the words that you use. I can just tell in talking with you today that some of you are business time a lot, and some of you are sweet and kind and all loving and caring and want everybody to be happy, and I can tell things about each one of you quickly. And I can tell how you see yourselves, how you want to be seen, and how you really are. So those things are also key components to effective selling, as well as to guest service. This is going off script. This is not about standards and procedures. This is about knowing people and how to build trust with people, and also how to be flexible with other people so that you're getting what you want out of conversations, but also so that you're making sure that people are not just hearing you, but understanding you. There's a difference. So I want to give you some skills so that we're thinking about communicating in a way that ensures that you're getting what you want out of conversations. All right, so I asked you to complete this pre-event assessment, and thanks to Yolanda, we got all of that together in the nick of time. Thank you, thank you. Do all of you have your copies in front of you?
No.
All right, well, I have them. So if any of you are curious and don't have them, that's fine. So this is, and I always joke, this is sort of like the world according to Erica after being in the hospitality industry for way too long. So I created this, maybe 10 years ago, after feeling like I need buckets. I need to understand people quickly, because when you meet somebody, especially in our world, I don't really have time to go, okay, so tell me about your mother and where did you go to college? And I don't have time for all of that. I need to figure out quickly how do you want to be communicated with, what's important to you. I need to be able to honor the dance, but on a less superficial kind of a level, right? And to me, that's truly where luxury service comes from, is I get you. I don't just get your preferences. I get your communication preferences. And to me, that's more authentic. I understand you on that different level. So here we go. So I asked you to complete this, and I think you all did it correctly. So I asked you to give yourself, and that's rare. I mean, I just want to point that that's rare. Usually somebody does it incorrectly. So quick and dirty, 5 minutes. This is not like a Myers-Briggs that takes 2 days to do, and then you have to send it out and let somebody tally it up and bring it back. This is 5 minutes just to get a vibe for each one of you. So I asked you to give yourself a 4 for the characteristic most like you when you communicate, and a 1 for the characteristic least like you. Okay, so communication, what does that mean? Is it when you're speaking or when you're listening? What do you think? Communicating means?
Both.
Right. Okay. So I'm talking about both. I'm talking about kind of all of it. I'm talking about nonverbals and tone of voice and words and just the whole deal. So I'm not being super particular about a certain thing, and maybe some of you put your your out of work hat on, or you put your work hat on. I think that based on what I'm seeing here, this is pretty worky, I'm gonna guess. Maybe one of you went a little rogue on that, but we'll see. So there were 4 columns here, and each column, we're just for the sake of conversation, we're going to call each column by a color. So the first column was green, and the second column was blue. The third column was yellow, and the fourth column was red. So what that means is that, Craig, you had a 27 in 3 areas, which means that, and I've never seen that before, by the way, Craig.
I didn't even think that was mathematically possible.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great.
Is it mathematically possible? Like,
I thought they were all going to turn out the same. As soon as I got the first 2 the same, I was like, oh, these are all just going to be 27s. But
I've never seen that before. So Craig is even in green, blue, and red, which then we have some compensation there because we have Kate, Amy, and Sarah all in that yellow category. Lisa, once she's true blue, was, has been, and always will be probably a blue communicator for as long as I have known her. And then we have quite a few blue or red communicators. We have Jenny, a portion of Craig, Teresa, and Robin is about as red as they come. So I want to break these down for you so you know what they mean. And then part of your homework, your takeaway work, is going to be to listen to some calls, and I want you to try to decode what you're hearing in a call. You'll know your style. I want you to listen to some calls. These will be calls that Yolanda picked out in advance of this event to try to get to know you. And I want you to listen and see if you can hear the communication style of the caller. See if you can pick it out. And then we'll listen together next week. Does that sound like a good plan?
we're focused on the caller this time, not the agent. Right?
Right. We're going to talk about you today, but then next week we'll talk about the callers. Good?
Okay, then.
All right. So all of you red communicators, there's a bunch of you. So we had Jenny, you were pretty high, 34. You're our highest. Yeah. I think Robin is. What?
Red. Oh, yeah, I was 30. Red.
Yeah. Teresa's a 30. Craig, 27. So these are they can be quite bossy.
We have big hearts inside.
Yeah.
Inside.
I know
Our hearts are cute.
I know there's some blue inside of us.
Yeah.
Man.
So, and the workbook that we send out is going to give you a detailed description of all of these. So please don't feel like you have to just furiously write notes. Just go ahead and look at the screen and listen and soak it all in right now, okay? So these red communicators are important because they are the ones that they are doers. They get stuff done. They like to take charge. They love, Jenny, do you like checklists?
No, because then it has to be checked off. No. I mean, I have mental ones, but no.
Mental
I don't.
ones.
Yeah, but you get stuff done. I mean, you know what needs to be done and you go after it.
Okay.
Check it off, check it
Teresa,
off.
how about you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
I think
I have to have,
the
yeah.
thing that sticks out to me for both of you is results focus.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they want to see the end result.
Yeah, we know what needs to happen and all the steps in between and, yeah, very kind of systematic and get it done. Independent.
Yes, working with them, it's like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Or working with them, it's like, what is the objective? What do we have to get done? What is the goal? So they can be extremely goal oriented. They don't necessarily care to work on a team. They're not like, I love this team. Can't we all just get, they don't care as much about the team.
Oh, we don't roll our eyes at me when I say to be we really do.
You know, if it's Amy's birthday, Jenny will be like, "Oh, happy birthday."
Yeah.
And Lisa will be like, "Oh, didn't anybody make a cake?"
That's where blue
You know what I drink with us.
That's where blue comes out, you know?
Yeah.
There is high expectations.
Yeah,
for yourself and
team-wide,
others.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Lisa.
they're great at accomplishing things. They're great at making sure that if you set out to accomplish something, achieve a goal, it will get done. It may not always get done right, but it will get done. So it's like, I don't care. I said I was going to do it, and I'm going to do it. If I said it was going to get done on Friday, it'll get done on Friday. It's not. It might be messy, but it'll get done on Friday. So
It's funny that the two of you are in the same, though.
Yeah.
That is very interesting.
Mhm.
Right. Okay.
mhm.
But I can see it.
Yeah.
They don't do well with
Yeah,
feedback
yeah.
usually. They're not really good with feedback. So it's almost like you have to tell them, listen, I will be giving you feedback, and you have to be prepared for that, and you need to be okay with that. So suck it. And then once they hear that from you, they're like, okay, all right, I know that we're going to have that kind of relationship, and that's cool.
Oh, true.
That is, I'm like, that is so funny.
Get prepared, yeah.
Lay it on me. Yeah. Okay. All right.
They are hardworking. They like to they like to work hard. They will work themselves to death. But then they'll also tell you that they're hard workers. They like to say, you know, oh, I worked 14 hours yesterday. Did you know I worked 14 hours yesterday? So when I was working my 14-hour shift yesterday, and you're kind of like, I know.
You guys again? Do you guys work a lot? I don't recall ever telling you.
Well, and so that is the other thing is sometimes they do behave as though rules apply to everybody but them. So sometimes they have to be, we have to be reminded that rules apply to us as well. So I think those are some common traits of the red communicators, and it's okay for us to be reminded that rules apply to us as well. Like, we are all supposed to be here at 8:30. My expectation is that you are also clocked in at 8:30. Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. And so that's a red communicator. Does that give you a vibe on them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to talk about what they're like as guests next week. But I think you'll probably get a vibe on them, right? You're kind of thinking what they might be like.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, the next one will be a yellow communicator. There are a lot of you here, and that's not a surprise to me. We have Kate, Amy, Sarah. They are pretty rampant in the hospitality industry. Yolanda is a yellow communicator as well. Fun. It's always a party when there's a yellow communicator in the room. Mm-hmm. They are definitely the ones that love to have collaborative conversations. They love to express opinions and feelings about things. They're expressive. If you want tone of voice or to figure out how to use the right tone of voice with something, ask a yellow communicator. They use words like amazing and fabulous, and they have the best stories about everything. And it's very dramatic, and they use hand gestures a lot.
And they're nice.
Yeah.
So They're not annoying. They're not annoying.
I don't think they're nice.
No, they're not annoying, but a conversation with them can be very long, and you have to be prepared for a very long conversation, or you have to say, "I have 5 minutes. Go." Or you have to somehow make sure that you keep them on a time clock. They're very distractible, so squirrel tends to be sort of like their mantra with life. And
I like the word multi-interest better.
Yeah. So
Okay.
they have a lot of interests. Like, I knit tissue cozies, and I love to rock wall climb, and I am a marathon runner, and I love to make wedding cakes for my friends, but they follow through with nothing. And it's always like, how do you have time for all of this stuff in your life? And the reality is that they don't. But they have so many interests, and that's what you love about them. So they always have a great story about things that they do, but they call themselves rock wall climbers and pastry chefs. But they're just really interested in these things. Like, they're not masters at a lot of things. They just love, they're so interested in lots of things.
Okay.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, but that's what's so cool about them. They just have they're such cool people, and they have stories. Lots of stories. Some of the yes, big picture. Great salespeople for that reason. They're very good at keeping people focused on the big idea, the big picture, or the main goal for something. So that's why they're just so good. I mean, I've heard yellow salespeople be able to sell a guest a $20,000 vacation home, and a guest doesn't even ask how much it costs because they can sell a guest on the dream. And that's the gift of a yellow communicator. So you have a few in your midst, and you're lucky to have them. I mean, thank God for Yolanda, because I cry laugh every day when I talk to her, because she always has a funny
Good
story.
for something over here. Good for something. What can I say?
She's good for so many things.
Taking that.
Well, so I get, as a red communicator, I get stuck in my head a lot, as she knows, and I will get like super intense, and I can't get out of my head. And I just ask her, "Can you give me some ideas?" And then she goes and just comes out with 1,000 ideas, and I'm like, yes! Why didn't I think? Yes, I'm an extreme red communicator. And so she just has this amazing way of being able to just pull me out of my redness quickly. So she's so good at that. And that's the gift. That's the gift. All right. Blue. So this is Sweet Lisa. And this is also
Right?
Yeah. Everything.
the sweet.
You have to repeat it again.
the sweet side of Craig.
He didn't follow the
I
rules.
really want to do the math.
He did it backwards. So really, his number should all be opposite. He did one.
But they're all 27.
So.
Yeah, so, well, except for one that's 19, which would be the yellow. So, which in this case, you would just go with the lowest instead of the highest number, right?
Do you really think he did it wrong?
Oh, I did it opposite. I did one for my favorite trait out of four.
So okay. So do you remember when I started describing these, how I said except for one of you? You were my one where I'm like, I am not sure what happened with this guy, but so that's why I thought this is so odd.
There goes our perfect record of the
Perfect record.
Get it right.
The opposite. So Craig is a yellow, and that makes sense. That does make sense.
Okay.
Bluer.
Well, yeah, redo it and come back and see me.
Not you.
Lisa is legit for sure. So Lisa is social, team player, fiercely loyal, excellent listener, super sensitive, So charming. The joke is, if you don't like the blue communicator, you have no soul. I mean, nobody doesn't like the blue communicator. She's the one that's like, can't we all just get along? And I just love being part of this team. So it's always about the team to her. She's always afraid of offending somebody. She's always fine, even when she's not fine. She would come in with her arm hanging off by a thread and say that she was still fine. If she wasn't fine, you could tell that she wasn't fine because she would act weird. And are you okay? I'm fine.
Can you face the camera towards me when you have a moment? I like to raise my hand. Oh, yeah, hi. So I'm raising my hand. In regards to my red personality, the best way for me to communicate with a blue communicator would be obviously to respond and not react. But other than counting to 100, what is the best way for a red person to communicate with a blue person?
Well,
to get into, because I think I would have to, if this is not a halfway thing. For a blue person, in my mind, I have to go all the way to the blue side. Correct?
no, you have some commonalities. I think one of the things that you have in common with each other is that neither of you like BS. I think both of you appreciate honesty, and that you all are always kind of knowing that there's more to the conversation than meets the eye. So that's one thing I think is always the same about you. I think another thing that is always the same about you as well is that you're very loyal. So when you both appreciate and respect that part of each other, I think you can meet on common ground a little more. As a red communicator, and I can say this, you probably, I don't know you that well yet, but I will, you probably tend to rush a little bit more, and blue communicators need you to slow down. If you're too assertive, if you rush, they don't trust you and they don't like you. So if you do tend to do that, then own that and say, I'm rushing you, aren't I? I need to slow down and I'm sorry. I feel, or use feeling words. And that's a difference that you have, is that you're more thinky and a blue communicator can be more feely about things. So that's a clash that happens quite often.
And that's not demeaning to say, I'm sorry, I'm rushing you?
I'm sorry?
So
Isn't that demeaning?
if you were to say to a blue communicator, so you want to say to a blue communicator, am I rushing you? No, I would not say those words.
That'd be a little
Yeah,
demeaning,
I would say
right?
I feel like I'm going too fast, or I feel like I'm rushing you. If you can sense some conflict or sense some
whatever I'm doing.
Right, because it's still your style. You don't have to change your style. What you need to do is like understand hers or his or whoever's, and take time, listen effectively, be compassionate, and slow it. Like, be able to know, like, okay, I have to get into this conversation. It might take me a little bit more time than just the yes or the no answer. It's going to take a little bit more time for the story to happen.
My heartstrings.
Use your heartstrings. They're in there. Yeah, they're in there, Jenny.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You have to focus on the relationship with a blue communicator. Blue communicators are always going to focus on the we, and red communicators tend to more focus on the me. So that can tend to be a source of conflict quite often. And when your conversations are more focused on the we, or working together instead of being focused on maybe self-preservation or what's best for me or what's best for my team, and thinking instead about what's best for the entire team, then you'll probably get much further ahead with a
Create a team with them, basically.
Yeah,
Not their
definitely.
team.
Yeah. And you know, as a rule, they aren't going to engage in conflict. They will avoid you. They just they will kind of hole up and hide. So that has to be more of a gentle kind of conversation with them. And usually if there has been conflict in the past, approaching that and saying, hey, I feel like I might have created a problem for us when I said this, or I feel like we've had some stress on our relationship over the past couple of months. Can I take you out for coffee so we could talk? I think you would get actually quite far with a blue communicator if you take that initiative to do something like that. So blue communicators in general are very social. They care more about your well-being than they care about their own. Usually, they want everybody to get along. They want everybody to feel good about themselves, and they want everybody to be happy. They are so much more oriented to the group's happiness and well-being. And when the group is sick, then they feel sick. It's a level of dependency almost. And you can hear it in the way that then they talk to guests. You can hear it in the way that they talk to you. You can hear it in the way that they just respond in general to things. So they wear their hearts on their sleeves quite clearly.
Can they jump onto a collective team, or is it kind of everybody must go towards a blue when dealing with a blue person?
Whatever.
I know that's kind of
Whatever the team wants, I want. If I'm a blue communicator, hey, if this is going to make the team happy, that's fine with me. But
so they can adapt as well. So it's quick to adapt to new ideas and ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
But as long as the team agrees. But if it's just Jenny saying, well, I just decided, it's executive decision, they're not okay with that. They'll say, well, wait a minute, I'm not okay with that. Did anybody check with the rest of the team on that? So they will advocate for the rest of the team to approve that. Does that make sense?
Okay. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So last but not least is perhaps or perhaps not a portion of Craig. Who knows? He's a mystery man today. But I'm sure you have a green communicator somewhere in your midst. And I know that you have guests that are green communicators, and you will hear them. These are your guests that will focus, or staff members that focus on function, task, policy, procedure, rules, your rule followers.
Posted about this one too.
Very disciplined about time. They are detail oriented. They're calling to just gather information. They're really not good at making decisions about things. They want to examine pros and cons of options. They are extremely good at knowing what the policies are. They know what your website says. They know how much something costs already. They just want to be right. They're good at studying situations. They're probably the most likely to have several conversations about you, with you about several little detail questions. Most likely to want to make the reservation themselves online if they're guests. If they're staff members, these are the ones, again, they don't make decisions. They're not decision people. They're the ones that'll give you the evidence that you need to make a decision. They're the ones that'll tell you exactly what standards are required to complete how to make a reservation. They're the ones that will tell you how to, a checklist. They know what checklist you need to do something. They'll give you whatever detail you need for something. They're very organized. when they talk with guests, they give a lot of information. They know the square footage of that residence. So that's what they're really good at. And usually if they're in a reservation sales role, they are almost like robots. They will do the same thing every time with every guest, and they can almost kind of get stuck in a rut. Do you work with anybody kind of like that?
That is kind of like that.
I can think of a lot of guests that I have that are in the green category
Yeah,
now that I'm dealing with.
So how to deal with these type of guests, the best way to join a team with them?
Well, strategies for them, you have to be methodical along with them. So they want an order of operations. So the first step will be that I want to gather some information so I really understand your needs for this particular vacation. And then what I'd like to do is provide you with my best recommendation of what I have and outline some of the pros and cons of that residence for you. And then we'll see how you feel about that or what you think about that option. Does that sound like a good plan to you? So I want to tell this person what to expect today. I want to respect that person's time, that kind of thing. They're on a fact-finding mission, which means I should not expect a reservation on the first call. It's not going to happen. They're not feely people. They are thinky people. So they're not using words like amazing and fantastic as going to go nowhere with them, right?
Good to know.
They will actually kind of shut down and it makes them uncomfortable. You have to make sure that your information is correct. Evidence defeats doubt. So they want to cite resources. So they want you to go on the website along with them and show them what you're looking at and why you're looking at that and prove to them that that is the right choice. Based on the information that you've shared with me, considering the fact that you have a toddler, I'm going to advise against this particular residence because of the fact that the staircase has floating steps. And I'm really concerned about the baby falling in between the steps at some point during that week-long vacation.
If you're incorrect about something, what's the best way to go back to this type of person and kind of own it and get them back on the team with you?
Thank you for correcting me. I am sorry that I was misinformed, and you are absolutely right. So I have come up with options that are accurate. Based on the information you've shared with me, I have found the options that are in line with what you need.
Okay.
Own it. They like being right. It's okay.
Doesn't everybody like
Okay, Erica, we're gonna have to end as
That's
we have a
fine.
lot of voice notes that are building up.
Yes.
And, our coverage left.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Thank
Yep. So next week, when our guests speak Listen Generously, Yolanda will send out some post work to you. And so you'll have a week to finish that up. And we'll kind of same bat time, same bat channel, if that sounds good to all of you.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.